Welcome back again, boys and girls. Hopefully everything stabilizes this time. Oh, did you see him pop his head out there splashing? So I hope our technical issues are gone now. We are trying to send you a show all the way from the deepest, darkest parts of Africa. So we do apologize if every now and again things don't always work out. But we're still here with the hippos in Chitwa Watering Hole. And they can, some people say, hold their breath for 6 minutes. Some people say as much as 9 minutes. But I wonder how many of you can hold your breath for 2 minutes. That would be incredible. So, Piper, you want to know what hippos eat? And they are vegetarians. They feed on grass. But because they've got such a large mouth, they just walk like a big lawnmower and they just eat everything. They actually use their lips to grab the grass. Their teeth, which you hopefully are going to see some teeth, are not serve any purpose for eating. These long tusks designed for fighting, defending their babies against crocodiles. Can you hear the one laughing there? I'm going to do my version of a hippo call. Are you ready? I don't ever know what they're saying, but it always sounds very funny. Sometimes I think they're actually laughing at us. Who are these people sitting watching us? There we go, a little family. They call a group of hippos, they call a pod, very similar to that of dolphins and whales. And they almost say they're closely related because hippos have babies in the water. They breed in the water, they can eat in the water, and they can live in the water all the time. Michelle, they can most certainly open their eyes in the water, but if you look actually how interesting it is, can you see how the ears and the eyes, and well, when he shows us his nose, they're all on the same level. So he can essentially put his whole body under the water and still be able to breathe and see and hear with most of the body underneath. But as I said, if there's no water for hippos to hide in, they will struggle very, very badly. There we go, look at all of them. They're just popping up everywhere. There's probably a few babies in here we can't see. Hunter, you want to know how deep in the water they can go? Well, they can actually run along the bottom of rivers and dams. But generally they've found in shallow areas where they can stand. Because believe it or not, the hippo actually can't swim. They can hold their breath for a long time, so they run along the bottom of the water to get to wherever it is they need to go. But invariably here in Africa, we don't have the deepest of water anywhere. They live in rivers which are quite shallow, or watering holes that are quite shallow. They don't really need to go too deep. But sometimes they go out of the water and they are at risk of being caught by lions, and that's what also makes them very dangerous. But someone who has already found lions for you up in the Masai Mara, let's go back up to Patrick.
Yes, Steve, I have found lions, and they have done what we call going flat. So when this happens, we say we have some flat cats, because they have laid down in this little gully that we can see here to have a nice little nap in the shade. They were eating just before we started showing them to you, so they have come here to sleep off their little snack that they had in this hot afternoon. Now, I do apologise, I did forget to tell you exactly where we are coming to you live from. We are in a place called the Masai Mara, which is in Kenya. So we can see those tails swishing about, trying to get all of those flies and bugs. Morgan wants to know, how do lions' manes grow? Well, they grow much like the head on your head. So they are made out of the same stuff that most hair is made of. It's just a specialised type of hair that grows a bit longer, and it only grows on the males. And sometimes, if the male is really unlucky, it won't grow on them at all. But most of the time, it will only be on a male, and it will grow longer and often darker than the actual fur that covers the lion. But it grows just the same as the hair on your head grows. So I was talking about that tail that's swishing about. We can see every now and then just the black tips of them coming up. So that black tip actually helps them when they're hunting. It helps them to see each other. We can see that the grass here is really long, and so it helps them to see each other when they are losing each other in the grass trying to get somewhere. It's kind of like if you were to have a flag and wave it over your head so all of your friends can follow you through the long grass. There we go, we've got one popping its head up there. Oh, and having a bit of a lick and a scratch, just like your cats at home. Cadence wants to know whether lions eat zebras. Yes, Cadence, they most definitely do. Zebras are one of the preferred meals of a lion out here if they can bring it down. So it takes much more than one lion to take a zebra down. Sometimes 5 or 6 lions, even more in other instances. So it takes a lot of effort and a lot of stealth, a lot of cunning and a lot of planning. But when they get everything right, they can definitely take down a zebra and they will eat it for dinner. We see zebra here quite a bit, not so much this time of the year, but later on in the year, there's lots and lots of zebras around. So plenty of food for these lions. They are very sleepy this afternoon, aren't they? And this is actually really something that people don't know that much about lions. They expect them because they're such big, muscular, powerful animals that they're always out hunting or always doing something, but this really isn't the case. They spend on average about 18 to 20 hours of the day laying around resting and sleeping, which is a lot more than you or I do, don't we? We spend about 8 hours or so a night sleeping and maybe a little bit of time during the day resting, but these guys take it very easy a lot of the time. But that's not to say they don't work hard. They are hard workers when they need to. Well, I'm going to stay here with these sleepy lions and see if they do get up and decide to move around. But in the meantime, let's go all the way back down to South Africa and see how Tristan's search is going.
Well, the sleepy cats, I'm sure, will wake up at some point and see lots and lots of tracks for leopards have been around all over the place. There's tracks here again, but we have had a report that a leopard was seen, so we're trying to get there as quick as we can before it disappears. I'm pretty sure it's the same female track that we had earlier that was coming along, and it crossed a drainage line and then they head up this way. Now, that particular cat that normally walks this way is either one of two. It's a mother and daughter, so it's either one of the two of them. One is called Tandi and the other one is called Klalamba. Now their tracks are getting quite similar these days because little Klalamba is growing quite a lot. So even though she's still a cub, she's getting to that size now where her feet are getting quite close to what her mom's feet look like, and so it can be very difficult to tell the difference between the tracks on the two of them. So it's one of those two, and where they're heading at the moment is an area where we had mating leopards this week. So we had a male and a female leopard together, and they were mating and were trying to have cubs together. And so wonder if maybe that's why this female might be heading there. If it is Tandi, she might be hearing that there's another female in her territory, and she's going to go and now have a look and see what's happening. So we're going to try and kind of move up into that area and see if we get lucky. The problem is that this particular section is really, really thick, and it can be difficult to follow leopards through this. They go into the bushes and into the long grass, and you know, their coat is so well designed to camouflage that they basically just disappear right in front of you, and so you're going to get very lucky to be able to see them. So hopefully we're going to get a bit of luck and we're going to find them. It will be nice if we can see both the male and the female, because it's always nice to see the difference in size. Everybody always thinks of leopards and they think that, you know, big cats, that the females aren't that much smaller than the males, but actually the size difference is incredible. They really are completely different in terms of how big the male is in comparison to the female. He almost makes her look like a little cub when he's next to her, so it'll be nice if we can see that. So that's the hope for this afternoon. The problem, like I say, is that where they're going is not very friendly at all. It's why I'm trying to get there quite quickly, is because I know that we might not have them for very long if they do go into one of these thickets. Right, now while we try and catch up with these leopards and see where they've gone, let's kind of send you across back to Pat to see why his lions have woken up and where they're off to.
Well, good luck finding those leopards, Tristan. We are having all the luck here with these lions. They have gotten up and started to move now. So it is starting to get towards the later hours of the day, which is when lions will start to become a bit more active, because they don't like to move around too much when they are really hot and when it's those hot hours of the days. So they save it for when it's nice and cool at night or in the morning. So I'm just going to move the car so I can get closer to them again. We can keep looking at these beautiful animals. I hope you're really enjoying it, spending time with these guys as much as I am. Lehman wants to know, how can lions climb trees? Well, that is because they are very strong. They're strong animals, so they can jump, and they also have claws. They can jump and hold themselves. They also have claws that they're able to stick out, and this helps them really get a nice grip on the tree. But something you will actually see climbing trees more is those leopards that Tristan is looking for. So lions will sometimes climb in trees, but you'll mostly see leopards spending all their time up in the trees. Here we are, we've caught back up. And now that they're all standing up, it's a good chance to see this one here, the male. He's making it tricky for us again, but you can see how that mane is starting to grow on the sides there. So it's obviously not a very long mane, so that's how we know that it's not a very old male at the moment as well. And then if we look at the ones at the front, you can see there's no hair around their necks. Well, there is hair, but no long hair, no manes around their necks. Hello, Alexander. You are asking, how does a lion hunt? Well, they have to be very sneaky. A lot of the animals that they hunt have evolved so that they can run really fast and get away from a lion. So they have to get up quite close. So they have to be very sneaky and stealthy and cunning to get up close to the animal. And then they will have to work as a team to get the animal down. So quite often one will lead the charge and sit on the back if it's a big buffalo or a bigger animal, and this will help to anchor them down. And then the other ones will help by trying to bring them down at the legs and also at the face as well. So the last one will try and get on the front of the face to try and stop the animal from breathing. So there's a lot of tactics that actually go into a lion's hunt. They have to be very clever, very fast, and very powerful. And they are walking along very calmly right now though. Sorry, I've just fallen behind again, so I will just keep moving up closer and then stopping it so we can have a look and then moving it up again. Sorry, I didn't catch the name for that question, but it was how fast do lions run? Well, lions can run at a speed of up to about 80 kilometres per hour, which is about 35 to 40 miles an hour. That's at full speed. That's their absolute top maximum speed. On average, I believe it is about 60 kilometres per hour, so just under 30 miles per hour that they will run at. But it does tend to vary between this sort of range. So they can run very fast, but not as fast as some of the other cats. And Tyson wants to know, how do lions find food? Well, they have to use their senses. They can use their hearing, their smell as well, and their sight. So they have to really rely on these three senses to be able to pick up the movements of animals, to be able to pick up the scent of animals, and maybe to even hear the animals. You'll see even when they're resting, their ears are always moving about, trying to pick up on sounds. And we're getting a really good view now of what I was talking about earlier with the tails, with those black tips. And the front one will just flick it up every now and again to say, "Follow me, guys." While these guys are continuing to walk along, we'll go back down to Tristan, who is still looking for a different type of cat, one with rosettes, or spots, as we call them.
Oh, hello everybody. It's raining. It's raining heavily. We are getting wet. We're trying to stay dry, but unfortunately these cars aren't designed to keep me dry. They're designed to keep the equipment dry. So we're trying to just move into a spot where we can maybe get a good view of an animal in front of us like that. But unfortunately, when it's wet like this, all the animals just go and they hide. But it is Africa, and we have to bless the rains down in Africa. Oh, I'm not getting your comms very clearly there, Nina. I think Mrs. Sugat asked if this affects the safari. Is that right? Rain will definitely affect safari because, well, the animals will stop moving. We were at the watering hole before, because the watering hole... Sorry, there we go. I went through a little bit of a signal gap there and I wasn't hearing you. You want to know if I live in safari? Well, I live right here in this vehicle. I'm only joking. We have got a house on the other side there. We're closer to where Tristan is right now. So we live in the wilderness. Yes, we live in the bush, but we don't live out here. We live in the bush, but in houses with a security fence so that the elephants can stay out, but the lions and leopards and hyenas can come in. Hyenas often come in and steal our dustbin. They also come and take our dinner plates sometimes. And you have to be careful. It is potentially dangerous where we live. But I've been living in the wilderness for many, many, many years, and I've never had a problem. So, oh, this rain, can you see it? You can. Yeah, it is really bucketing down now. Claire, you want to know if I'm afraid of being attacked by the animals? No, Claire. Out here, you have to just respect the animals, and obviously in a vehicle, you're a little bit more safe. But we do lots of walking. I love walking, being on foot, and then there's no safety except for your mind and anything else you can use for cover. But the animals are essentially scared of us. The only time they will attack you is if you get them in the wrong position. So if you corner them, if you corner an animal out here, they can be potentially dangerous. So it's all about giving them space. It's all about knowing what's happening. And that's why these things we've got here are one of the most important elements for us out on safari. Our ears, also our eyes, also being able to smell. Sometimes you smell an elephant before you see it. But then that feeling you get in your tummy, that is the most important feeling. Oh, see? That sixth sense that we get, that is one of the most important. You go, I'm not going to go right, I'm going to go left, and then you go left and nothing happens. Sometimes that's what happens out here. Well, we're slowly going to make our way away from the watering hole here, because when it is raining, the animals are definitely not going to come and drink because all the water that's available. So where Pat sits with his lions, lions and leopards often like to hang around watching holes so that when animals come down to drink, they can catch them. But the only reason they have to go to the watering hole to drink is because there's no water around. But now you can clearly see there's plenty of water everywhere. So the animals will probably be out doing whatever it is that they're doing. And hopefully this rain blows over and leaves us in a little bit, because it can be rather unpleasant driving around in the rain. Rather unpleasant indeed. But animals that absolutely love the rainfall are elephants. So we're going to see if we can find you some elephants, because if we do find them, they'll be doing all sorts of funny things in this weather. So hopefully we can get you some. Would you like to see some elephants? Yes? Oh, hopefully we can show you some. Very good. Hello, Nathan. You want to know how an elephant grows and changes? I don't really know how to explain that. They eat food, they drink milk when they're young, and, well, they're always going to be an elephant. So they're born looking like an elephant, and when they grow up, well, they're just a much bigger version of their baby self. It's the same as you, really. Mum's milk initially, and then elephants, like hippos, are vegetarians, so they'll eat lots and lots of food, except elephants, they've got a very long nose. And they use their trunk to grab leaves and twigs and flowers and grasses, and they can eat. Not the hippo's got this huge mouth. You can't choose anything. The elephant is very, very selective. They fruits and flowers, and they could probably even peel an orange. I doubt do that. Okay, well, we're going to keep going up this road, driving nice and slowly so the rain doesn't come too much inside. And while we do that, let's go back to the Masai Mara with Patrick and his lions.
Well, I'm glad I'm not down in South Africa right now. I'm up here in sunny Kenya with some lions and no rain, thankfully. So we can see the lions are just in front of me here. I'm just turning around so we can get in a better position. It is quite hard to see them this time of year though, because all of the grass is very long. That's because we are at the rainy season now here in Kenya. So about every day we get a big storm and lots of rain. Landon wants to know, can lions see in the dark? Yes, they can. So they have a different sort of vision to us. So it's a little bit of a trade for them. They get to see in the dark, so they can see quite well in the dark, but they can also kind of only see in black and white as well. So they can't see colours like we do. So that is the kind of trade that they have to make for having this ability to see at night. And this is also why you will see them hunting a lot at night as well, because other animals may not be able to see so well in the dark, and so they can use this to their advantage. Aren't lions cool? And it looks like the male at the back just keeps wanting to stop and rest, but everyone wants to keep moving. So Shepherd wants to know, how do lions attack? Well, they use their claws and their mouths to attack. So if you'll ever see a lion hunting, they will jump at it with claws and teeth. And they're both very sharp and very strong, so they can pierce skin easily. And sometimes they will even fight amongst one another. And they can use their claws and teeth then as well. And this, unfortunately, can cause quite a bit of harm for the lions. But this fighting is all part of their lifestyle. It's just like when you might be fighting with your brother or sister every now and again. Just like lions do here, and when lions are younger they will fight, but they will only play fight, and that's just practice for when they get older, because for a male to be able to get a female, he has to show that he's bigger and stronger than all the other boys out there. speaking of lions attacking, I think down in South Africa, Steve has an animal that a lion would very much like to hunt and probably eat as well.
Welcome back. We found some animals in the rain. And well, as Pat says, these animals are one of the favorite foods of lions. These, boys and girls, are an antelope called kudu. Kudu. Very funny name, isn't it? Some people think the name comes from a very old sort of African word for when the kudus run. Their feet go kudu, 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 kudu on the floor as they run. And here you can see they're busy eating. Watch, she's swallowed. Now watch again. She's going to vomit in her mouth. 3, 2, oh my word. Did you see that? You see what she just did? Now, these animals are chewing the cud like a cow or like a sheep. And what they do is they can feed for a very sort of a medium time of day. And then they can go stand somewhere where it's safe, where they're away from predators. And they can maximize their food by rechewing and rechewing and rechewing. You know when your mommy and daddy say chew your food properly? Well, kudus chew their food better than most. And look at those big nostrils. Remember I said how important our ears are out in the African wilderness? Well, look at those ears. Look at the nose is constantly flaring, trying to figure out what's going on. In the rain, lions and leopards can sneak up to them in the rain. But isn't she beautiful? And oh, there we go. She swallowed it. Now watch. 3, 2, 1. Whoopsie. Oh my word. How funny was that? That was very funny. I'm sorry, Nina, I had a very loud radio going on in my ear there. I didn't hear your question, but it looks like the kudu has had a big sip of a chocolate or a milkshake. A very milky glass of milk, doesn't it? You see their top lip? This one's watching one side. The other two are watching the other side. I don't want any lions to sneak up on them. Grinding that food, grinding it. Makes it in very small pieces and makes... Oh, she's eating some fruits. Oh, that's very good. She's actually eating a marula there. It's a big fruit tree above her head. Well, a very, very good news in the rain. Tristan, who is indeed the leopard whisperer, he's managed to find for you a very special surprise.
Well, it is very, very good news because you can see there sitting under a little bush is what we were looking for in the form of a leopard. It's not the leopard that was seen. This is another leopard. This is a male leopard that we've bumped into, and he is lying, trying to get out of the rain as much as what we are trying to do. Luckily, we have a whole bunch of covers that allows us to kind of sit in the rain and our cameras not to get wet. But for a leopard, it's not quite like that. And so he's got to find himself a place where he can try and kind of get out of the rain a little bit, and so that's underneath the tree. And you can see it's really raining quite hard now. There's lots and lots of water that is going to be falling, and so this poor leopard, he's not going to be doing too much at all. He's going to try and find himself a spot like this where he at least doesn't get too rained on at this stage. But it's not very easy for us to actually see him because he camouflages so well. There we go. You can see he's trying to find a thicker area where he can stay a little drier, and that's because leopards don't like the rain. Unfortunately, though, we only found him right at the end, and you guys have to go off to your next classes. And so I hope that you had a wonderful time with us here in South Africa and in sunny Kenya. And I hope that your day is not like ours and you don't get rained on and that you don't get lots of homework. And we'll see you all soon. Right, well, good afternoon, everybody. So those of you that are just joining us for the afternoon safari, it is a very warm welcome. Remember that my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Craig, and that we are coming to you live from, well, yes, the deluge that is taking place. And so we do want to hear from all of you. You can join us in our misery of being hammered by rain for a second consecutive day, and you can do so by kind of commenting and asking us lots of questions to keep our mind off the water that is falling on our heads on hashtag SafariLive for Twitter and at FC on the YouTube chat stream. Right, Tingana is about as impressed with this as what we are. He was on the road and then just kind of quickly shot off into this bush to try and get out of the rain. Shame. He's trying to find a place where he can at least somewhat kind of feel as though he's not getting rained on too much, and he's kind of tucked himself in, looking thoroughly miserable at this stage. The other leopard that was seen a little bit earlier, I think, is Tandi or Tlalamba. The guys didn't get an ID. They just saw her crossing over the drainage line off Nyala Road, and it's really difficult to follow leopards through there, even for our vehicles, and so they didn't really get a proper view. And what I'm hoping is that she's going to move, whoever it is, through to where we are. It's quite a long way from where that is, and so it's an outside chance, given where he's kind of lying, but you never know. Maybe they find him. The problem is the sort of rain that's falling is going to deaden his scent, and it's going to make it quite tricky for a female to track him down. So I was hoping that maybe he was mating with that skittish female still, and that's why maybe that other female heard what was going on and coming to investigate, but no sign of her as yet. Nancy agreed. While rain is, it's not the worst thing to be, I suppose, hit by, but snow would definitely be not very pleasant at all. Although, I don't know, the wonder of snow, I suppose, would be quite cool once or twice, but I don't think it's as pleasant to be in freezing cold rain. And at least this afternoon, it's not too cold, it's fairly warm at this stage, and so, the rain that's falling, it's not actually too bad. It's not like we're getting freezing and wet, and at least with the rain roofs that we have on, we got them on today, and we didn't get caught like we did yesterday morning, where we didn't even have the roof on. At least we got the roofs on, and so if you park in the right kind of direction, you can actually kind of keep everything fairly sort of dry, and you don't get too wet, which is quite nice. The problem is of course, if he starts to move, that's going to make life a little bit more tricky. So, these roofs are great if the direction of the rain is in the right place, but at least also with Tingani, he lay actually where we want him to lay, because he lay sort of more on this back side of this quarry bush, which allowed us to actually position our bum where the rain is coming from, which means that we don't actually have too many sort of issues coming into the car. I suppose the front left is getting a little bit hammered, but otherwise all is good. And it seems to be easing up a little bit now. It's not as hard as it was just now. So I'm hoping that within the next sort of hour it will start to kind of subside, and we'll have at least a little bit more of a drier kind of finish to our drive. Right, so Tingana is hiding. He's not impressed with the rain, but it sounds like up in Kenya, Pat's lions have no excuse, but they've gone back to sleep as well.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this sunset drive. My name is Patrick. Joining me on camera is Bongay, and joining us on my left, let's think about that for a second, is the Owino Pride. So we did come across them. We were literally a minute or two away from a kill. So they did take down, I think, a small impala. The guy that saw the hunt told me it was he said reed buck, but I heard water buck, so I thought it was a water buck, but that's not the case. It was most likely a small impala, because they devoured that thing within about 10 minutes. They had gone and eaten it and left. And now they are down here in this gully, and there was a little bit of contact calling from a couple of the females, which makes me think, I wonder if they're trying to locate their cubs. They definitely are on the move and looking for something, and so I will have to be on the move too. But we do know that the Owinos do have some cubs, and a place like this would be good. Razor is saying such a cute name. I'm assuming that's in relation to the Owino Pride. And yeah, I guess it's a cute name, Owino. It's an interesting name. It always makes me think of the weenus, which is the bit of skin on, that flap of skin on your elbow. It's called the weenus. Whenever I hear the Owinos, I hear the wieners. Oh, the lion's mane. The lion's mane. I'm sorry about that. Yes, it is. It's developing quite well as well. It's that sandy blonde colour, which I have read actually kind of means that they aren't as big and dominant as the ones with the darker mane. But that was just one study, so don't quote me on that one. Whoop. But yes, it is quite a beautiful mane. It's a very handsome looking young male, very strong looking young male as well. Last time I caught up with the Owinos, it was as big as a boat. It was huge. It had eaten obviously a very large meal and its stomach was ballooning. Now, I do apologise for the lack of eye contact right now. The grass is long and they have... Oh, there they are. They are very tricky to follow right now in this grass. But they are definitely on the move. They didn't stay with that kill for very long at all. Here we are. Now, my original plan was I was heading down to catch up with the sausages. They're actually on a kill of their own. They had a buffalo kill with them. I caught up with them earlier on this afternoon. And so I was making my way up to check back in with them. And little would you know, here are the Owinos, which was a very nice surprise on my way up. So when I last saw the sausage with the buffalo had still not been too eaten. The stomach contents were gone, most of its internal organs were gone, but apart from that, still had most of the legs and the torso remaining. So they haven't completely fed on it yet. So it will be interesting to see what's happening when I check back in on them. Hopefully they don't give me the old sausage slip like they did last time. I found them with a buffalo carcass and then went back to them in the afternoon and they had long gone. They left me with nothing but a scavenging hyena who was eating a little bit of the buffalo. But that was still actually a really cool thing to see anyway. Well, I'm going to follow the Owinos for a bit longer and see where they lead us. In the meantime, though, let's cross back down to Juma and catch up with Stivovo.
Thanks, Pat. Good luck with the Owino Pride there. I hope you get them doing some interesting stuff. For the moment, well, we're driving around in the rain. Wonderful, though. The temperature's really, really nice and cool. Really nice spending some time with those kudus. And welcome back, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We had a really good morning this morning with all those elephants. And I was hoping we might be able to catch up with them again. But I had a feeling Tingana would be back today. We were on our way back and I was thinking, I've got to check these roads to see where he is. Because after it rains, Tingana comes back to scent mark his area. No doubt he'll be picking up on the smells of hukumuri and that's going to make him drool incessantly. Fantastic. Tinganana's back. Don't forget we are interactive. We'd love to hear from you. Send your questions, comments, hashtag SafariLive or just drop them in on the YouTube chat stream. Let's see if we can find anything. It's very wet, as you can see, but at least it's starting to it's just drizzling softly. If I drive at this pace, it's just falling on my face and not on the camera, which is a good thing. A good thing. Gendre is nice and dry in the back there. So when it is wet like this, the birds all cover themselves up. The animals find some shade to hide in. It's only really elephants you got to try and find. Sometimes lions will hunt in the rain because there's nothing else for them to do. They're wet anyway. They're like, oh, let's go hunting. Sometimes adds a little bit to the element of their surprise attack. But because in the wet, lions and leopards' feet are actually quite well adapted to the splaying needed to catch yourself in mud. Whereas hooves slip and slide in the mud and actually is a disadvantage. Especially giraffe. I've seen many giraffe caught in the wet because they're just a little bit too clumsy. Imagine you weigh that sort of weight and you get one leg goes this way. There's just nothing you can do. You've had that? Anyone had that on a wet floor where one foot goes the other way and the other one goes the other way? There's just, it's going to happen. And someone always happens to have a camera in those moments. It's not funny though if no one sees it. Not funny if no one sees it though. Anyway, we're up at Quarry Pad and we're going to go up towards Buffelshoek watching. I'll see what's going on over there, but in the meantime, let's go over to the Duke and Tristan and see exactly if he's going to move in this weather.
Well, good luck, and see, maybe you'll get lucky with that female leopard that was seen kind of moving close towards Buffelshoek. We're not too far from there at the moment. She was seen on Nyala Road. Tingy, where are you off to now? Boy, it's raining. You should have stayed where you were. Oh, he looks good though, doesn't he? Considering he's been mating for the last couple of days. Oh, that's exactly what we were hoping for. Craig's been saying now he must walk out and shake his whole body so that the rain comes off and we can get it, and he just did. All right, Craigie, let's move, otherwise this rain cover is not going to work. The only problem with him moving now is that we have to drive into the rain, which is not ideal at all. So we're going to have to try and kind of figure it out. How are we going to do this? But Tingy, do we have to walk this way? Or so you're walking the wrong way, because now he's walking towards the boundary and away from Juma. So Husky, I mean, I've never noticed it on cats particularly. Hyenas certainly, and wild dogs, when it gets wet they get that smell, but cats not so much. Like now you can't smell anything on Tingana. I suppose if you got really close and you could kind of put your nose right where his coat is, you'd probably smell that same smell. But at the moment, the distance that we're at, no, I can't really pick up anything at this stage. But I'm surprised he's walking now that it's raining. I would have expected him to be taking it easy and waiting for the rain to stop, but maybe he's just decided, well, it's going to continue to rain, so I might as well just take a walk now and try and see if I can use this as a hunting opportunity. At the end of the day, when it rains like this, it's great conditions for a leopard to hunt. Things like impalas can't really hear things that are going on around them, can't see as well, can't hear as well, can't smell as well, and so these things make it much easier for a leopard to hunt. No, somebody's just contacting me on the radio. Yeah, AFM, he's now up in Mobile. He's Mobile sort of northeast on that road towards the fire break from the dam side. So, unfortunately, like I say, he is heading the wrong direction, and at this rate he's going to cross over in the next probably, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes. He's going to have a little scent mark. That's a very odd way to scent mark. Very ladylike that was, Tingana. A little kind of squat and had a little mark, and then now off he goes. But maybe he's looking for food. I suppose after mating he'll be quite hungry. I mean, his stomach is not kind of sucked into the point where he's starving, but he certainly could do with a meal. He's going to do a little scent mark there, and he'll rub up and lift his tail and spray. So we're going to just try and catch up with him because he's gone around the corner once again. But from where we are now, the road goes kind of straight up, and it's maybe not even 150 meters, and then he'll cross off into Buffelshoek, and he won't. I would be surprised if he turns back to the west. Generally, this route that he takes him into Buffelshoek or into Torchwood. I suppose we can go into Torchwood too, but it won't be long until we lose signal on that side. What have you spotted, boy? We need a herd of impala to slow him down. I'm just going to stop here for a second so that all the water just drains off, so that it doesn't drain on me when we turn right instead. Yeah, Craig, you see, Craig's like he likes the punishment that guides receive when it rains. So I have to fool all Craig's tricks, and Craig's just said at the fact that I stopped to make sure all the water drained off before we went right. It's all right, Craig. One day I'm going to just make a small hole above your head there so you get an irritating drip on top of your head when it's raining, and then we'll see how much you like it. It's a pleasure, Craig. Don't worry. For you out of the world, just to make you experience what it's like. I'm sure you'll thoroughly enjoy it. But that other car is coming from the other side, so it might be interesting to see which way Tingana goes. I mean, he's so relaxed that generally he'll just kind of walk right past a car. He's not going to be too stressed in terms of, a car coming from the other side. But you never know with him. I kind of want him to turn and head more to the sort of west again and walk along the boundary and carry on that way. It would be quite nice. But it's interesting. I mean, with all this kind of rain around, we've actually been quite lucky this week with leopards. It's far better than what I thought. I mean, I don't think I've missed a drive with the leopard yet, which is quite nice. So touch wood that it continues, and we keep seeing lots of our spotty kitties. Good. Our leopard is on the move, and sounds like Pat's winos are also moving about. So let's send you back up to him and see what they're up to.
Still on the tail of these owinos, quite literally. They are still moving through this long grass, all in a single file line. And where they are going, well, I'm hoping it's a denning site. I really, really would like to get a look at these cubs. But having said that, I also think that they weren't satisfied with their last meal. So they may also be looking for an opportunity to find themselves some more food. It's very cool to be moving along with this pride though. They're moving at a nice pace, and now I'm out of this long grass. It's very pleasant. Mushley wants to know, what does owino mean? Well, you've caught me with my pants down here. I don't actually know. Bongay, do you know what owino means? It's not Swahili. Hey? Alua? Ah, okay. So, okay. Well, it remains a mystery then. So, I actually haven't thought to ask what owino means. So I do apologise for that one. It's nice that they have those black tips on their tails when we're following them. It makes it easy. Sometimes we might lose sight of them and then they'll just flick it up. Roslyn wants to know, how much meat does a lion need? Well, that is entirely dependent on the lion that is eating. So a big male lion is obviously going to need a lot more than a young lioness. How much space? Sorry, I heard that one wrong. How much space does a lion need? Well, again, this is dependent mostly on food. So how much food is in the area. So a home range could be as small as 100 kilometres, it's 10 kilometres square, or as large as 100 kilometres square for their home range or territory. It all depends on the abundance of food in the area and the density of lions themselves. So obviously out here in the Mara, lions have it pretty good in that there is a lot of food and a fair bit of space. So there's not too much overcrowding, although I think the olololos is going to be a bit of a problem soon because they are growing steadily in numbers. But yeah, it all is dependent. So you'll see come migration that territories will not dissolve, but they'll become a lot less defined because of the abundance of food that is around, and therefore less competition, and therefore less need for their own space and their own territories. So it looks like one has gone flat. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the male because he's been the one going flat. He doesn't seem interested in whatever they're doing. He just seems to want to sleep. So he is just down here. And I think he has given up. That's it. All right, well, I'll stay with the females. I'll stay with the bulk of the pride and leave the little lion man to rest. So the owinos are actually quite close into sausage territory now. They are getting quite close, almost reaching that sort of area now. But we do also quite often see the owino sort of in this area and a little bit out sort of towards the eastish way. Actually, last time I saw him was very close to this area, under a tree. So it is good to see the Owinos looking so fit and so healthy. Obviously, definitely capable of making a good hunt for themselves. Well, it seems Mr. Hukamori Steve is still searching for his leopards, I believe. Perhaps he just needs to look one direction and it'll come the other way. Let's go down to Juma and check back in with Steve Bobble.
Did Pat just Hukamori Steve? That's a good one. That is a good one. Okay, well, we are now in the area of the road. Just been chatting with Tristan on the radio. He's with Tingana over there somewhere. And apparently there was a brief sighting of a female leopard crossing Nyala Road North, which is this one coming up, crossing there onto Gwaripan Road, where we were not so long ago, but we went around that way. So let's go Gwaripan and see if we can find this leopard. But bearing in mind, folks, the other day Taylor found, or Jamie found Tingana with a skittish female, a female that wasn't very relaxed. So there's a very good chance if we do find her, she's not going to stay around. So hopefully we do. And for those of you who don't understand what I mean by skittish, it means an animal that hasn't been habituated, not relaxed to the car. Don't ever think these animals are tame. Leopards and lions that we have in the Sabi Sands, for the most part, are quite relaxed to the car because they've been born to parents that are relaxed to the car, and so they learn. The best way for me to explain this is if you got a child and they're walking with you down the road and they're holding your hand, and you as the adult respond to something. Maybe you see a mugger or an attacker or something, and you respond by squeezing the child's hand or by reacting. You're going to react to that. But if the same thing happens and that person maybe is just a strange looking person to the child, but you don't react in any way, it's going to learn that that person's not a threat. Whereas if it's holding to it, then it's very likely the child is going to react, and that is essentially what habituation is. But we'll get back to more of that in a moment. Let's go back over to Tristan, who's got a beautiful view of the Duke. Open.
Well, good luck, Steve. I hope that you find that female. I don't think it was the skittish one. From what I understand, it's the same female that we were tracking at one point from all the way from Ingwe Alley side. So it must be Tandi or Tlalamba, one of the two of them that went that way. The tracks were so distorted by rain, and I didn't see the leopard. It was one of the other guys that saw it, and they weren't sure. So I would imagine it's one of those two, not the skittish female, which I suppose would be nice if Steve can find them. But Tingana, he's being difficult right now because he was posing so beautifully on the side of that termite mound, has now turned, and so all we can see is his little spotty bum at this stage. And he's kind of looking out now, he's kind of watching around, and I'm pretty sure that he's trying to find some sort of food item. Maybe from that little mound he's heard something or seen something, like a little duiker that's moving about, or maybe impalas or waterbuck, young waterbuck that could be in this area. Often see waterbuck hanging around this section, so it'll be interesting to see kind of what he gets up to now. I'm hoping that his general direction is going to be more eastwards, because then we can kind of follow him into Torchwood. But if he goes north, we have a bit of a problem. Nick, are Tingana and Hukamori on opposite sides of Juma? Yep. So yesterday I had Hukamori on the complete opposite boundary, on the western boundary. We're on the eastern boundary at the moment. And so, or northeastern boundary, and Hukamori on the northwestern boundary yesterday. So they're pretty much on opposite sides. They do come together towards the central pass with territory, obviously, but for the most part they kind of hang around in quite different areas. Often everybody kind of hears Hukamori's on Juma and thinks that we're going to have a situation where we're going to get kind of the two of them boxing straight away, but they don't. So now I believe the other vehicles just told me that he's coming back now. Let's just see. He might have scent marked. From this gap now, I can see if he comes to our right or if he goes to the left and comes towards us. But for now, he's kind of apparently sort of turning and coming back slowly towards us. So there's unfortunately a bit of a thicket between where we are and him. Maybe he's trying to find somewhere where he can go lie down and take it a bit more easy. But I'll just try and kind of keep an eye out for where he could be moving. It's amazing how quickly they disappear in this long grass, this spotted coat, and this kind of, especially in dingy light like this, I mean, it's not bright at all, makes it quite tricky to kind of pick up where exactly they are. So I don't see him at the moment. Craig, do you see him? No. Sorry, Craigie. I'll try and figure it out. No, I'm just don't want to move forward and then he comes back. So, Minamu, the reason why two leopards don't share the same territory is simply for the reason that they are designed by nature to not only feed but to also procreate. And we know that leopards, in terms of procreation, that they're dangerous towards one another because when they mate, their tenure as a dominant male is very, very short. So they're only kind of dominant sometimes for 4 or 5 years. And then what happens is they have these cubs. The cubs have to grow, and it takes about 2 years or even more for that female to come into estrus. And so if they only kind of dominant for that short period, if they don't chase other males away and don't share that, and if they shared it, they're going to constantly lose their cubs and their bloodline is never going to go forward. And so it makes no sense for them to be like that and to in any way kind of have that situation. And so it just, there's territory to try and protect, food resource, water resource, and obviously the ability to mate. Now, where's he gone? Maybe he's gone stationary in the bush here. No, he's gone quite far by the looks of things. So these guys said to me he wasn't moving, but he is. Okay, well, that's all right. We can just go in from here. That's not a problem. Problem is he's going north, so that's not really ideal for us. He's starting to head more towards the Buffelshoek boundary, which I didn't really want. I was hoping that he was going to turn more east towards Torchwood, but something caught his attention up on that termite mound. He heard something or saw something, and now he's kind of going off trying to sort of... Sorry? My earpiece has come out. Oh, well done, Craig. Look at... You're so observant. What would we do without you? There we go. So it's back in now, Craigie. You'll be pleased to know. Now, we're going to try and find a spot where I can actually see this leopard again. I think maybe, just maybe, the cut line is going to be the best spot, as we're right here. Good. Well, we're going to try and get one last view of Tingana here because he's about to cross the boundary into Buffelshoek. So we've got probably 10 meters and then he's going to cross over. So we're going to just quickly get one last view of him before he does. But in the meantime, before he kind of, I think it looks like he's settled down a bit. I'm just trying to see where he's gone now. He's straight in front. So is he lying down? He's lying down, which is quite good news. So he's decided to sit down right on the edge of the road, which is very, very good because he was about to cross the boundary and then that would have been it. We wouldn't have seen Tingana anymore. And he's going to head up towards Buffelshoek. He goes to a water point at the moment, quite a lot, called Insinga. That's where that female hangs around quite a bit, so maybe that's why he wants to head up that way. But you can see a bit of grooming now, just to get all that moisture off his coat, any seeds that he's picked up, and you'll find that he's going to try and kind of get himself as clean as possible. Craigie, I think let's just move a little bit just so that we can get a slightly better view, because at the moment we've got so much grass in our way, but if we go forward just a little, we should get a bit of a better angle to be able to actually see him. Obviously, I've got to be a bit cognizant of how we position ourselves because poor Craig has got to deal with the roof and the covers on both sides, so a little bit easier if we're not so far away for Craig to kind of go through the grass. But you can see really kind of big grooming session. Now, I'm pretty sure from here he's not going to be stationary for too much longer. He'll groom himself for a bit and maybe have a little bit of a lie down, but he certainly will cross at some point. And like I say, we're right on the boundary now, unfortunately. And so I don't think we're going to have too much longer with him. But it's amazing how meticulous these guys are when they do decide to groom themselves. Honeybees? Yes, I would imagine. Leopards would recognize one another after long periods. I mean, their senses are incredibly acute. And so sense of smell and those kind of things would certainly play a role. And they might have a moment where they're just a little unsure, and then they'll kind of figure it out. But the thing is with a leopard is that when they haven't seen each other for a long time, so I mean, mother and cub is probably the easiest example of this, or even son and, or young male that comes back to an area like, let's say, Hosanna, theoretically, there will be a kind of, they're not going to tolerate one another nearly as much as what they used to. A leopard lives pretty much a solitary life and doesn't really like the company of other leopards too much. And so there generally is not, and I say generally because, what we have learned through watching leopards for a long period of time is that they are able to disprove a lot of things. And so sometimes you will get these weird circumstances where they spend time together. But generally, no, they don't actually... they don't really tolerate one another, and so even if they haven't seen each other for a long time, there's not going to be any sort of nice way about it when they meet up. They'll still have the same kind of response, whether they know it or they don't. But you can see it's quite interesting. He's kind of heard something. Oh, another little shake. And is now turning back on himself. I wonder if he hasn't heard maybe some alarm calls or something like that interested him. No, back down again. So yeah, back to what I was trying to say. Sorry, I got a bit distracted there because of his reaction to kind of sitting up. But, they're not going to respond to an animal that they haven't seen for a long time with any difference than they would potentially to a threat to their territory. At the end of the day, when there's a long period between them, it's generally because that animal has moved off and then come back looking for territory in the case of young males, and so the whole relationship changes. In terms of females and they're kind of split off, females are also very territorial and will keep other females at bay. Even if it is their daughter, they will fight with one another. So, a male that hasn't seen a female for a long time in terms of mating is very seldom, because in his patrolling and his territorial activities, he's going to be picking up her scent. Even if he doesn't see her, he'll be scenting her and recognize that scent. And when they do physically come into contact, that scent is obviously quite strong, and they're able to figure out that this is an animal that they have smelt in their territory before. So they're incredibly, like I say, incredibly acute senses, much better than what we've got. So if you can remember, people throughout your life, it would be the exact same thing with a leopard. Isn't he looking magnificent though? So, Joshua, male leopards in the Buffelshoek area, it's tricky to know. There, I think, are a few leopards that walk around there that people probably don't see regularly. But what we do know is that the two leopards that are most seen, three leopards that are most seen in terms of males in the Buffelshoek area is Quarantine to the far east. Then you've got Gajima to the far north, and you've got Tingana that are pretty much spending most of their time on Buffelshoek. So there we go, he's going to cross the road now, and that will probably be the end of it. There's another road that just goes to the left where he's angling, and that's going to take him out of Gajima and into Buffelshoek itself. And so, those are probably... Is he going to soar? No, he's not going to soar. I was hoping he would. Those are the three, really, but there's a leopard called Wabayiza that has been seen. Now, not the Wabayiza that was born to Tundi. This is a different one that comes from the eastern part of the Kruger National Park in Hamilton's Hoya Hoya, that area. So he gets seen. Then there's another one. Oh, I forget his name now. How can I forget this? But anyway, he comes from, also, it starts with an N. I can remember that, but I can't remember the exact kind of saying for his name. Now, I'm just going to quickly turn us to get one last view of Tingana walking away from us, and then we're going to leave him there. Also, there's a car that's going to follow him through. That's part of there. So there we go. We'll get one last shot of him kind of disappearing off into Buffelshoek. He's going to do a bit of a scent mark before he goes as well. So, but those are the sort of the main three, and then obviously there's other males that move around. Hosanna has gone into Buffelshoek a few times, and there's one or two that come in from Manyaleti side every now and then, but the sort of main three is Quarantine, Gajima, and Tingana. Hokamuri actually also too has been into Buffelshoek once or twice as well. Not often, but every now and then heads in that direction. I don't know what Tingy's spotted now. Just kind of watching. Synergy, indeed, he has probably the biggest dewlap of any of the leopards that we see in this particular area. In fact, even in the surrounds. So from Londos to Elephant Plains and all of those kind of areas as well. And I'm sure he's spotted something because he's off now to go through the thickets. I can't see anything, so I don't really know what he's seen, but it looks like it's down into the kind of left where we are, so I'm not sure we're going to see much more of him, unfortunately. But very cool to have seen him. But his dewlap is amazing. He's got an incredible kind of big dewlap, and it's always just nice when you get a big male leopard that has dewlaps like that. I don't know why, it just kind of looks really cool on a big male leopard. So he's one of those impressive boys. Now I just want to quickly turn and see. I wonder if he might not come back towards our side, so I'm just going to do a little bit of turning. But in the meantime, let's send you back across to Pat and a dry Masai Mara.
I'm ecstatic right now. So all of that following the lions did pay off. We were right. They were looking for the cubs and they have found it. They have come to the den and there is 3 fresh little cubs here to greet us. What a find. Look at these little cute faces. Oh, I'm so happy right now. You little cute munchkins. How good was that? I almost felt like a member of the Pride then, following them around. It was like if anyone used to watch Dive Live, when we used to get amongst a school of fish, especially the tarpon, it would just make you feel like you were one of them. For just those few seconds, you transcended into an animal. And here we are now. So there was quite a few spots that they checked along the way, which all had very flattened grass around it. So they must have changed den sites a few times. And now, this is where they must have stashed them. Well, they went out to hunt just before. So they've got a big, long life ahead of them. But for now, they are safe and in the company of the Owinos. Absolutely spectacular. Got the big male coming right up close now. Yes, it is very exciting. Sorry guys, there's just a little bit of a standoff here between the male and the young. So we can see there was a little bit of go away there through the male. Well now. So they're just telling him to keep his distance from these cubs. And now he's right next to us here. Very exciting stuff. Wow. So Bungay is just getting a photo. This is absolutely epic. I am lost for words right now. We've got the male right up close, the cubs playing very nicely in the background. And I'm just going to keep my voice down because I don't want to do anything to startle these lions right now. Very intense, very cool. I'm sorry, I just can't keep my eyes off the action right now. This is insane. Look at that, giving Bungay that stare. Wow. Incredible stuff, absolutely incredible stuff. I wonder what that lion thinks this big green machine is that's right next to it. And wow, up this close you can really see the size. It obviously isn't an old male, but very big. And that stare, those eyes. Why, now we're looking back at the cubs, jumping all over Mum there, giving it a very hard time. They must be very new to the world, less than a month old. I'm not... Bungay, have these cubs been seen before? They have, okay. So these cubs have been seen before, so this isn't the first time. But still epic nonetheless. I'm so thankful. apologise for that. My microphone batteries just played up a little bit, so I just have to move them around a little bit. So we do apologise for the lack of audio. So do apologise for that. Sorry, the mic receiver isn't working for some reason. Apparently I'm not getting audio. Okay, we do apologise for that, everybody. My microphone just decided to play up at the worst moment. So I am very, very apologetic for that short spell. But we did have a question from Kayleen asking how my heart rate is. And I was trying to stay very relaxed then, but I do admit it was beating it just that little bit. But what an insane sighting. So yeah, I do apologise. The audio should be back up and working now. I'm not exactly sure what happened with my mic back then, but all is well that ends well. Look at these little fluff balls. How beautiful is that? I think that this is a moment that we should share with everybody else in the world. I think this would be a great one. Look at them getting into that play. You'll notice this pretty much as soon as they can start to move around freely and properly, they will start to play with one another. How nice is this? I'm just going to stay quiet to see if they make any of their little cute little kind of yaps that they do make. Oh, up onto Mum. There we go. I hope the mic picked it up. That little... Getting a nice groom there from Mum as well. Judy is asking whether this is the closest I've ever been to lions. Not... Well, it's probably equal with my closest I've ever been. So I've had mating lions that have come quite close to the car, and on another occasion, I think it was the Inkahuma Pride back in Juma, they walked right past the car. So I have had a few situations like this before, but I can tell you they do not get any less exciting, any less heart racing, and any less beautiful. It's something I could do all day. We had a similar situation this morning with a big elephant just walked right up to the car next to us, and it's those moments where you just forget about everything else in life and you are just completely there, completely present in the moment. It is absolutely beautiful. And I think there is also just that knowing what could happen, and that if something was to go wrong, that it could go badly, that little edge, I think, that really does make it special. You little cuties, look at them go. Jared wants to know, what male coalition are they with? Well, they are not presently with any coalition at the moment. there doesn't seem to be any males present except for the young Owino male here. So I don't actually know who the Owino's mated with to sire these cubs, so I can't confidently answer that question. I will look back into it. But I believe that may be why the females are telling this male to keep his distance, because we do know that males do inflict infanticide, and so the mothers are naturally very protective and very wary around males with their cubs. Oh, nice bit of grooming and affection going on here between two lionesses. That's something I've also noticed, is it tends to be a lot more, well, not a lot more, but that lions tend to be more affectionate when the cubs are present. Now, I'm not sure whether there's any actual truth to this or not, but it's just something I have observed since being out here lately with all of these cubs. So, lions don't exactly have a set breeding season, but they do synchronise births. And obviously at the start of the rainy season is an ideal time to give birth, so you will see a peak in a lot of animals giving birth this time of year. And we have many prides with many cubs at the moment. The Owinos, the sausages, the Olololos. Absolutely awesome stuff. A great time to be out here in the Masai Mara Game Reserve of Kenya. Hello. Oh. Oh, it melts the heart. It completely melts the heart. And of course, having cubs is a big test of patience for the mother, as we can see. Well, it may not be the mother. It may not be. We do know that there is allo care amongst lions. And what this means is that there will be parental care, sometimes even suckling from other pride members. Anyway, we're going to stick with these little cute cubs and send you back down to South Africa for a bit of an update with the VOV.
Well, thanks, Pat. I'm super excited you're able to find the little Owino. What are they going to be called? Owinos. I suppose that's quite obvious. But we still need to find some lion cubs this side. Amber Eyes is in the north. She needs to bring her cubs back. So we have been driving around. We didn't find anything on Goripan Road or in that area. It's pretty quiet, but driving very slowly. The birds are starting to sort of shout, as they will do after some rainfall. Let's have a little listen, shall we? Cape turtle dove. Hello, Zamia. You want to know if this much rain is normal for the end of summer? Well, essentially, you know, our rainy season can go from as early as September through to March, April, and we're in March now. Last year we experienced a lot of rain, in April in fact, a lot of late rain. Sorry, there weren't too many birds calling there, so I'm going to move on. But what is obvious and is happening, and everyone out there who doesn't believe it, global warming is a reality and it's changing rainfall patterns. So it's forcing the summer rainfall to be later, to fall later into winter, and well, that's going to change all sorts of things, because essentially the savannah is a summer rainfall environment, and rainfall like this is going to encourage birds like the one on my left hand side over here to stay a little bit longer, because it's going to encourage, can you see it there, Jandre? Redback shrike, because it's going to cause a bloom in insects. So a lot of the migratory birds that we have are going to stick around because there's food. There's a nice beautiful male, But what's also going to do is going to give a different flush to the vegetation. It's going to keep the watering holes a bit more green or a bit more wet until during the dry season. So essentially what's happened is global warming is a reality, and there's an enormous cyclone belt off of the coast, off our east coast, and that's what's causing this rainfall to come. So it's not unnatural, not uncommon, but we're definitely seeing our rainfall pushing later, starting later, and then lasting a little bit longer. But I think we are in the throes of a wet cycle. You go through dry cycles and wet cycles, and I think we're in a wet cycle, which is a normal fluctuation for the savanna biome in South Africa and normal for many other parts of the world, in fact. And what these fluctuations in rainfall have done over the many years is they've impacted on the number of herbivore animals that we find characteristically throughout the park. So zebra and wildebeest, after very high rainfall events, strange as it might seem, they actually go down in number, where impala go up. So it's very interesting that these things take their toll. Obviously buffalo take a very, very big knock in the dry season, and they do well after it's wet. So the fluctuations on animals and birds and all of that is a reality, and we do go through what we call 18-year cycles of wet and dry, and I think we've gone out of the dry one, we're coming into another wet one, but they are changing. The intensity of them is changing. It used to be a classic 18-year curve, so 9 years down, 9 years up, and now it's probably changing to something even shorter, and that is because of the effects of global warming and CO2 in the atmosphere, which is definitely changing the heat absorption. The greenhouse gas effects is changing the currents in the world, which is leading to cyclones out of season. And you just have to watch the news for 5 minutes in the morning to see that the world is in flux, and it is very angry at the moment. And well, Mother Nature is storming and flooding and torrentially downpouring, or giving nothing at all. So the contrast is quite real. Contrast is quite real. Okay. Hello, Paul. Have you got about 10 minutes? I hope so. Paul wants to know if I can address the beneficial aspects of the rain and the dam levels. Well, essentially, Paul, the rainfall, like what we're having today, is a light spattering of rain. This isn't a very heavy downpour, and what this is going to do is it's going to benefit the grass layer, because the grasses, if we just look at the grasses in front of us, they are still quite green, but grasses have got essentially a very shallow root system which sort of covers the whole sort of about a meter maximum below the surface, but about a foot or so below the surface. The roots of the grasses are covering that entire area like a big sponge, like a big filter. So soft rainfall like this just slowly filters into the soil and really benefits the grasses. Heavy rainfall runs off, washes off, and goes into the streams, into the drainage lines, and then that gets absorbed into the water table, which benefits the trees. So the grasses are going to do very well now, which is going to provide lots more grass and greenery for the herbivore animals, namely the grazers, to feed on. But the trees will also benefit from the increase in the water level, because no doubt the water is going to slowly filter down. The water table is going to rise. You're going to see trees with leaves much later in the season. Grass staying green and fresh much later in the season as well. And if, for example, it rained in a winter, which happens sometimes, you get this out-of-season green flush, which it brings the grass, because the grass doesn't know what time of year it is sometimes. If it gets wet or watered, it'll go green. Some of you back home will know, in the winter months, if you live in a summer rainfall area, if you water the grass in winter, it will go green. Everybody likes a nice green lawn. Just have a look at any golf course around the world. So, and the water in the watering holes, first of all, will benefit hippos, will benefit a lot of the fish, the terrapins, and will also allow animals water longer into the season. Essentially, South Africa has got the most dams out of any African country, and we decided long ago to just catch all the water we possibly can. And it is not a great thing to catch all the water. You need the water to actually flush down, clean out the estuaries, and to go into the ocean. It's a natural process, but South Africa specifically likes to catch all the water. So it means that we're going to have water later in the season, and animals aren't going to need to be controlled with regards to numbers. But also with the rain, there's going to be puddles all over the place. Animals are going to be able to drink wherever they go, which means all of you out there who've been commenting at length over the last weeks about our leopard drought, even with Tristan Dix on site, we are going to struggle to find those cats because it is green, it is moist, and, well, tracking is difficult. And, well, the animals don't really need to move anywhere. Leopards and lions, what we find, especially leopards, they'll make a kill, they'll hoist it in a tree, and then they'll invariably go to a permanent watering hole or somewhere where there's lots of water, and we will find them because of their tracks. But now they can kill an animal here, there's a puddle just there, you're not going to find them for some days. But anyway, Pat doesn't need to do any finding this afternoon. He's done all the hard work already. Let's go back to him and the Awinos.
Yes, all the hard work has definitely paid off here as we see these little cubs giving this lioness quite the hard time. Now, there was a little bit of discipline from one of the other lionesses, which this one did not like at all. So we had a little bit of a scuffle there. It's obviously very protective over this little cub. Oh, so cute. Oh, now, one thing I forgot to mention, the meaning of Owino. So Bongay did know it. He just didn't have the time to explain it to me whilst he was filming. But Owino is the name given to someone who is killed by a poacher in... what tribe is it? Lua. In Lua. So one of the tribes here in Kenya. So it's the name given to someone killed by poachers. So this pride was named after one of those people, the Owino. So that is that. I should have known that one though. I do apologise. I'm in kitty heaven right now. What a feline frenzy this is. I'm thinking that this is the mother here, just because of the amount of care and nursing that this one's given, and now they're going in for the suckle. Ah, you beautiful, beautiful cats. Getting some of that nutritious milk. So I have heard of little lions being fed meat as early as 4 weeks or 1 month old. So it is introduced into their diet relatively early. Nothing does beat needing new lions. Seeing them coming into the world is so nice. And it's good to see that they have also been introduced to the pride and are relatively accepted. They did see a little bit of detestment there before, but they have reached that stage where they are starting to be integrated into the pride, although still hanging out at the den just for now. Getting it in for a nice suckle there. Some of mother's milk. Looks like they're jostling a little bit for a good position, but they all seem to be a little settled, except for this poor one on the bottom. It's a little bit left out. Oh, that's alright. Get in there. You'll find one. There we go. Mum's moved for you. Wow. So I do definitely think that these cubs are all from the same litter, all from the same mother. And it must be the only 3 of the pride. Alright, so we are going to share this moment with the rest of the world, so bear with us while we get all of that started. You can just enjoy the sounds of these little cubs. Welcome everybody to the Masai Mara Game Reserve here in Kenya. My name is Patrick. Joining me behind the lens is Bongay. And as I said, we are in the Masai Mara Game Reserve of Kenya and joined by some little lion cubs. How good is this? So we are currently with a pride that is known as the Owino pride, which consists of 4 females and 1 male. And now one of these females recently had a litter, and we caught up with them as they just finished up a hunt and had devoured a small antelope. And then they were doing a little bit of contact calling. So we thought that we might follow them because they may just be looking for their cubs while they went out hunting. They may have left them behind. And sure enough, we followed them for about 20 minutes, half an hour, and came to this den site here to find 3 beautiful little fresh cubs. I'm absolutely ecstatic and I'm so happy to be sharing this moment with everybody else as well. So we can see 2 of their heads there suckling away. Ezio, I would have to guess that these cubs are about 4 to 6 weeks old. So for the first 4 weeks, or 2 to 4 weeks of their life, they can't really see and can't really move, so they're really reliant on their mothers. But we can see now that they're coming out and they're playing, and they have also been introduced to the pride. So that makes me think that they are somewhere in that 4 to 6, maybe, yeah, probably about 4 to 6 weeks old. So very fresh to the world, but really starting to show that playfulness. They are suckling right now, but before they were jumping all over this poor lioness, giving it a bit of a hard time and jumping all over one another. Sherry, triplets are not unusual. It's actually probably about the average litter size you will find with lions. So they are known to give anywhere between 1 to 6 per litter. So 3 kind of sits nicely in the middle there. And obviously, the more cubs they have, the more investment from the parents and rest of the pride is required. So 3 is probably a good number for this medium-sized pride of only 5 lions. Or actually, more medium-small size pride. Very awesome stuff. As I said, this is the Owino pride. Christine wants to know how we get so close without bugging them. Well, it's all about reading the animals. As we can see right now, they are very relaxed with our presence. If they were showing any signs of discomfort, any signs of annoyance, or any signs of aggression, we would not be staying around. We would calmly leave the sighting. So that is why we can get so close. Obviously, staying with a relaxed animal is absolutely beautiful, and even this cub is relaxed right now, which is not a sight we will often see. Kristen wants to know whether the other females will help raise these cubs and accept the cubs. Most definitely. So in lions, we observe something which is called allosuckling. And allosuckling is when the cubs will suckle of a lioness other than their mother. So the pride definitely does invest effort into raising their cubs. But this could go the other way if not go the other way. I'm not putting that right. This can be upset if an outsider male comes in, because if an outsider male doesn't see the cubs as his own, he will actually commit infanticide, which is the killing of the cubs, which will force the female back into estrus, which is another term for being kind of on heat, if you would call it that. And this will force her, so this will take about 2 weeks as opposed to the 2 years if the cubs did survive. So this is essentially just a tactic for the males to get their genetics to be passed on and not another male's genetics. But having said that, the females will also aggressively defend their cubs against any outsider males and are very, very wary. And for good reason too. If these were my young, I would be defending them with my life. How beautiful is this? Absolutely unreal sights here in the Masai Mara. Oh, so cute. And this actually wasn't expected. So I did say we caught up with these guys after a hunt, but we were making our way to check on a completely different pride who actually has about 10 cubs right now, which is the sausage tree pride. But these ones intercepted us, and I'm very glad that they did. It's so beautiful. But it is also very interesting that the sausage tree pride has so many cubs right now, as does the prides such as the olololos. And this is because of synchronous spawning. So synchronous spawning is when animals of the same species will give birth at the same time when conditions are correct. So they don't have a set breeding season here in the Mara, but there will be a peak about this time of year at the start of the rain. Kaylee wants to know, how does a male assert dominance over a pride? Well, firstly, they will have to overpower any males already in the pride. So that if there is older, more mature males hanging out with the pride, they will have to challenge them and win to get a pride takeover. So that is why size is so important when it comes to lions, especially being a male. So males will invest less of their time in hunting. They'll leave that for the females and more of their time resting and fighting and getting their way to be able to eventually take over a pride. It is a hard feat for a male lion, especially a single one. They form what is called a coalition occasionally. Well, not occasionally, but quite often they will form a coalition, especially with related brothers. Jordan is asking, how long does a cub live? Did I hear that correctly? Well, the average lifespan of a male lion is 10 to 12 years. How long will it suckle for? I do apologise for that. I don't know how I mix those ones up. So it will suckle for around 6 to 8 months. As I said, they do get introduced to meat relatively early on in their lives, sometimes as early as 1 to 2 months, and they will eventually be bought off milk by about 6 to 8 months. And then you'll see them start to sort of participate in hunts at around 1 year old, but they won't get good at hunting for many years after that. It takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, and a lot of dedication to become a skilled hunter. And I know that just from seeing so many failed hunts, and a lot of the time it does involve kind of males around that 3 to 4 year range, and young females as well. Well, it looks like these cubs have hidden back into the den, so it is time to sign off and say goodbye. I really hope you enjoyed this brief little sighting as much as I did. I am over the moon. If you want to continue on and watch as these lions grow, please log on to SafariLive on YouTube. And you can interact with us also using the hashtag SafariLive. So we'll hope to see you then. We are broadcasting right now, so jump right over if you want to. Welcome back, everyone. What a beautiful night it is out here in the Masai Mara. The sun is just starting, well, it's just finished kind of setting behind the escarpment. So we're getting that nice dusky light right now. And these cubs are out in full force now. Oh, look at that stare. Look at that stare. Oh, it's almost as if he heard me. Yes, I was talking about you. That's right, I was talking about you. Well, I'm going to stay here and bliss out with these little ones. Let's go all the way back down to Juma and catch up with Tristo.
Well, at least we've got some sort of sunshine that is coming up over the horizon at this stage. It's not great and it hasn't kind of come out and dried anything, but it's still very pretty to have that sort of glow, orange glow on the horizon and all those kind of blue-grey clouds that have come over. And so those seem to be kind of breaking up, and it seems as though it'll clear up a little bit. But there are some big storm clouds still to the east, and I believe north of us in the Manyeleti, I just got a message from one of the guys that works up that side that was saying they got absolutely hammered this afternoon with rain, and it's still really raining quite hard there. So it'll be interesting to see if it swirls and kind of comes through this area and we get more rain later on. I suspect that it will. Apparently there's a big cyclone that's somewhere near Madagascar that's causing a lot of these kind of storms to waft through, and isolated rain patches that we've been getting over the course of the last sort of 48 hours. So it's quite common to see that when you get a cyclone, is that you will get rain periodically through the day. And today I think this is the third or fourth time it's rained, and so it's expect more to come during the course of the night. But so far quiet since Tingana went north. There's really been very little else happening. We've driven around very slowly, kind of retraced our steps that led us towards Tingana, just in the off chance that maybe, that female leopard popped out, but we didn't get anything, no sort of tracks to indicate that she's walked after the rain. So we've been puttering about the eastern side, just kind of looking around. Maybe we get lucky with Klalamba. I'm obviously not sure which leopard it was. It could have been Klalamba, it could have been Tandi, but either one of them, maybe we get lucky with them on this eastern side. So just kind of taking it easy at this stage and seeing what else is around. But it's been very quiet from an elephant point of view. I don't think I've seen an elephant since I've been back, or have I? No, I've seen one. I've seen one elephant since I've been back from leave, which is not very good. Hoping that we get a whole bunch more herds starting to come through. At this time of the year, you would expect to see a few more eddies because it's so green, but actually they spend a lot more time in areas where the grasses are more nutritious. So they'll go to areas with high concentrations of tertiary grasses. So you'll see them a lot in the Manyeleti at the moment. There's really good grazing grass there, and so they go there and they kind of feed a lot. Even though there is still lots here, it's just easier for them to go into that area and have a lot higher density. So we're not seeing too many eddies at the moment. A buffalo, I don't even know what that animal is anymore. I've decided they don't exist. You can see that there was a mess created here by rhinos at some point. This is, an area that they obviously have been in during the course of the rain. So this is while it was raining, or, around that sort of time during the day today. It's obviously, it looks like there's a bit of mud over the top of them. So I think it was earlier in the day when it rained. But they love this kind of thing when it rains, as they'll come in, and buffalo are another one, elephants too, is that they come where it gets soft like this and they excavate it out. And often we talk about mud wallows and how a lot of animals use them, and everybody kind of often wonders, well, how do they start? And so this is an exact sort of example of a mud wallow and how it begins. So it started out probably as just a little puddle on the edge of the road, and then slowly but surely animals have come through and they've started to kind of dig the mud a little bit, and rhinos and buffalo and hippo and elephants will be the four that really shape these wallows. And in the time that I've been at SafariLive, this little kind of depression has gone from a small little wallow on the side small little puddle on the side of the road, and is slowly but surely now getting bigger and bigger. And now it's actually big enough probably for a rhino-sized animal or buffalo-sized animal to actually lie down in it if it had to fill up with rain, and it creates a really good place for them to roll around, cover their skin with mud, which they obviously do quite a lot. And so then they kind of mess around in here and then get up and move, and slowly but surely their process of doing that and kicking at that mud and rolling around in it is only making that getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and eventually it can be a full-on mud wallow where it will collect water and sometimes can last for many months with water in it. So this is how they kind of form, and eventually it will become something a lot bigger than that. But the problem with these kind of things is that the more you get of these, the harder it is actually to find a lot of animals, because the amount of water distributed through the area is a lot, and it means that a lot of your animals are not going to a specific place for water, which makes it harder to find them. Stacey, no, I haven't actually heard anything, to be honest with you. The last I heard of Mfakazi, must have been, was a while ago now. It was just after we last saw him. Oh, hello, Nyala. There's a Nyala female that we've caught by surprise, who's darting off into the bush, and we're not going to be able to get because of the rain cover. But it must have been just after we last saw him at Buffelshoek Dam. I think he was seen in Buffelshoek, and then since then I haven't heard a single thing about him. And so, I mean, I don't know where he is, and I don't know what's been going on with him. You know, earlier we were talking about leopards of Buffelshoek. I suppose he would be one that would have been included in that, except that there's just been really nothing on him of late. We haven't seen any sort of sign at all. There was a bird sitting here. It's flown away now, unfortunately. It was a redback strike, so it'll be the last of the migrants sort of starting to go away now, I would imagine. Although this late rain might keep a lot of our migratory birds here. Woodland kingfishers certainly are very much quieter than what they were, and numbers are far less. Haven't seen too many of them flying about. And a lot of the other... This rain cover is really messing us around. It's no good for birding at all. Because there's a hoopoo that's right here, but it is such a beautiful shot. I don't know how I'm going to get this, Craig. I don't know. It's like the most relaxed hoopoo ever. Can you see that, Craig? Just over the front left of the car. I don't know if you're going to be able to get it on a lower branch. Just come to your right a bit. So there you can see its head. So my gap is perfect. I'm going to try to go forward a bit, Craig. Let's see if we can maybe get you into a better gap. Just try to keep... The problem is that I've got to keep the car at a certain angle. How's that, Craigie? It's super chilled, this little hoopoo. And it's not flying away at all. Is it behind that branch? So the one branch... Okay, a little bit more forward then. Oh no, it's flown away. Never mind. Birding with the roof is impossible. I just give up now. It's ridiculous. You can't do it. Unfortunately, because you've got bars on both sides, which means you can only have a straight thing, and birds don't like when you drive at them with a straight-on view like this. So, unfortunately, our hoopoo flew away from us. But yes, poor Mfakazi, I don't know where he is these days. I mean, I think there's so many other males around, and he's never been one that's had a real kind of territory. And so, I'm not really sure where he could have ended up, or maybe something has happened to him, but, you know, we do go long periods without hearing about him if he disappears into the Manyeleti a little bit or something like that. Anyway, we'll see. Maybe he'll turn up in the next few weeks. It would be nice to get an update on him. In the meantime, though, talking about updates, send you across to Steve and see how he's been getting on a very quiet afternoon on Juba.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, we managed to get to the den site, behind the den of Juma, of course. And, well, we found June on her way out. She went, come on, and she's walking in the block east from the den. She's been sniffing, and she's just here somewhere. We're following her very gently. This is quite suitable to drive in here at the moment. It's quite sandy soil. We aren't leaving any divots or any ruts. It does make it very difficult with the roof on, though. But I've had many hyenas in the past actually take me to a leopard. So maybe that's what she's doing. Very good chance that she actually was at the den suckling before we got there, because as we got there, she was leaving. So she left the youngsters inside. We didn't find anyone else there or any cubs out. But now she's just given us the slip. Of course, that's what these animals can do from time to time. She was just in front of us a moment ago. Of course, just before you came to us, we had her in view. Now she is gone. Of course, going to see where she's gone to, but it's getting rather thick over there, so I'm going to turn back the way I came. I think Jeandre, she's left us in her dust. If there was dust to leave, she would have left us. And I think she's gone a little bit further east. Now, I don't know who she could be leading us to. Hello, Monique. You don't know if there's any updates on the Nkuhumas? Not that I know of. I haven't heard anything. Last I saw them, the two young males, the Mangeni male and the Nkuhuma young male, I saw them close to the gate on Voyatella the other night when I came back after having watched some rugby with some friends down at Cheetah Plains. And I know Taylor then spent the morning trying to find them unsuccessfully, but I don't know where they are. I think they were north of the boundary. So I think they're in Buffelshoek, but the Buffelshoek people haven't been saying anything about lions up there, so who knows exactly what's going on. No doubt they'll be back. They quite often do materialize in Djuma after we've had a little bit of rain. It's all about food, trying to follow animals around, buffalo and the like. And while we've had nice rainfall over the last couple of months, some really nice vegetation and grass coming through. Sorry about that, Jeandre. Okay, well, I think I've lost her officially. Just going to go a little bit further north this way. We'll pop out there. A few nice termite mounds. Checking a couple of these marula trees. There could be a leopard with a kill in one of them. Ellie, fantastic. I have never gotten myself lost to the point of asking for help, but I have on many occasions been temporarily disorientated. Not lost. Temporarily disorientated, Jeandre. There's a difference. So another thing that we've been trying to do is I've got a strong feeling that there's a secondary den nearby to our den there, a little bit more to the east of the Djuma den, because many a time we're there and suddenly out of nowhere, Pretty's cub, one of her cubs, or even, sorry about the branches there, a little bit wet, or even Corky's cub, Plonk, will just materialize from somewhere, and we don't know where. So I'm going to get myself out of here and go back into that area and see maybe if we can find a secondary den. Jamie has said it's very plausible. It has happened before, where they had two dens very close to each other and they used to just sort of alternate between them. But it's also a nice block to check because there are lots of big termite mounds in this block, and while we don't get to really walk in here very often, maybe on a way to check that den side, another den side out, or maybe she's just looking for food. But anyway, let's go back up to the Mara with Patricia, who is still with the Owino Pride.
Thank you, Stephanie. Well, I am still hanging out here with the little flufflings, having a grand old time watching these ones just play about, annoy Mum a little bit, and even annoy the rest of the pride. So there has been a bit of snarking amongst the pride. Now it's been towards one of the lionesses and another male. They just aren't showing the most loving emotions towards the little cubs. They have been, kind of snapping at them and showing them a bit of discipline, and this in turn is causing the mum to lash out at them. So there's been a little bit of drama amongst the den down here. You can see them down in that right-hand corner there. Nice little kicks and bites and scratches. Of course, this is playful now, but it is actually a very important part of their maturity and once they grow up, because it's all fun and games now, but this may very well be a real-life situation for them one day, where they will have to fight, whether it be another male amongst themselves, or even trying to bring down a prey item. Just like me and my brothers, we used to always be getting in fights. Harshal wants to know, is there less competition in this area as this pride is very small? Well, yes, there doesn't seem to be a heap of competition amongst the lions here, so they're all pretty evenly spaced at the moment, and resources tend to be pretty plentiful here in the Masai Mara. So there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of conflict. They are somewhat close to where we had the sausages earlier today, so we do see them in similar areas. But I haven't actually heard of or seen any conflicts between any prides in the months that I have been here. Well, not even been here, but known of the Mara. And now we are in infrared right now, which is why you're seeing everything in a bit different colour, sort of that black and white night vision look. And that is just because we are shining a light that nothing else can pick up except the camera, so we're not damaging the animal's eyes while still getting a good look at them doing what they do best at this age, and being cute. This is just something I could sit and watch all day. There's no real winners or losers or anything like that. It's just pure play, and it's great. It's great to watch, and it's great to be a part of. I'm very blessed and very happy to be here tonight. It's starting to get quite dark here in the Masai Mara, but we are 1 hour ahead of Juma, so they still have a bit of brightness, and I believe also some birds.
Well, it's not only dark there, or getting quite dark there, it's getting quite dark here too. With the thick cloud cover on the western side, there's not much light left, and it really is starting to get quite dingy. But we finally managed to get a bird on camera with these silly roofs on, and there's a beautiful Wahlberg's eagle, a pale form version of a Wahlberg's. These guys, the last few of them that are around, I don't think they'll be here much longer. I was just talking about migratory birds and the movement of them, and I would imagine that this is would be the last kind of ones that are around. Generally leave by now, and then they start heading up obviously into North Africa, and then head that way. There's actually a very cool bird that you can follow, a Wahlberg's eagle that was tagged in I think it was near Auckland somewhere, Auckland Gate, which is not far from where we are, and you can actually follow its GPS points. Listen. Now, I was hoping it was going to call, but it wasn't. It was another bird. Anyway, so what I was saying is that they were... you can follow this particular Wahlberg's and where it flies and where it goes. It's really interesting watching the movements of these animals and the routes that they take, and how incredible it is to see that they don't fly over water. Now, a lot of migratory birds are like this. European honey buzzard that they've tagged in this area does the same thing. But essentially they fly from obviously south to north, north to south. But when they go over places like Lake Victoria, they'll actually fly around that lake. So they fly on the fringes, not over the body of water itself. And it's probably due to the fact that, one is there's no place to stop and rest, and to be able to perch. The second thing is that food availability is obviously a little bit more tricky over water sources. And so you find when these birds come down, go to the edges, and then they fly along like that. And so they do these big loops around, which obviously adds time to their migration and more energy, but at the end of the day seems to be the way that it does. And that is very different to the way a swallow will migrate. Swallows are actually quite fine to fly over water points. They don't really worry too much, and that's because swallows will do their entire migratory journey without, or some swallows will, without actually stopping. So they won't actually be able to kind of, they don't have to perch or land. They'll drink on the wing, and they'll even feed on the wing, and also somewhat rest on the wing, which sounds odd, but that's how they will migrate. They don't actually have to perch anywhere, so they're quite happy to go over big water sources without too much worry compared to these guys. But it's going to be sad when they go. The Wahlberg's eagles obviously are one of those birds that we see so much of in the summer, and we really enjoy their presence. They're incredibly pretty birds, and particularly these pale forms. I always find the pale form is such a pretty bird, and they kind of grace our skies and interesting to watch move around. I would love to actually spend a lot more time with them. It's still obviously very difficult because they cover distance far quicker than you can. But it would be so nice to kind of follow one and just see what it gets up to, because they're incredible hunters of all kinds of different things, from dwarf mongoose to birds to any small mammals, and watching them hunt is quite something. The other day we saw one trying to grab a dwarf mongoose outside Inga's, which was quite incredible. But Lauren, you say they almost look like an oddly coloured bald eagle, so only because of the colour, the greyness of this afternoon, and also that there's very difficult to get a sense of scale on this bird. They are much smaller than the bald eagles, and the beak and all of that is very different. You can see these guys have got quite a small beak in comparison. Bald eagle has quite a heavy set beak that is bright yellow. So obviously our fish eagles look a lot more like the bald eagles than these guys. These guys in normal light appear quite different, and much smaller bird, and it's sort of different shape when it sits like this is slightly different. So they're a very cool bird though. I like these guys, and one day hopefully we'll go and spend some time with bald eagles too. I've not seen one, but other than in zoos and things like that, but I'd love to go and see them in the wild. They seem like a beautiful, beautiful bird. What this reminds me of, funny enough, in this kind of grey tones, is a little bit more like an osprey than anything else. That would be kind of the size. So for those of you, that see osprey, you know the western osprey, or osprey as some people call it, that would be the kind of size that you could link it to. Anyway, we're going to leave our Wilbergs to itself. I don't know if the other one's still around. This is the pair that nests at Twin Dams. We often see them sitting up on this side of the Mulwati. They sometimes sit on the eastern side, and so I wonder if the other one is actually around at the moment. I'm going to unfortunately have to drive quite close to where it is. Right, well, hopefully this little one will not fly away and I won't disturb it, because it's probably roosting for the evening. In the meantime, though, talking about little ones, let's send you back across to Pat, who is probably just complete mush over the sighting of those little lions.
Just seeing if anything's changed. No, they're still very cute. Yeah, nothing here has changed. The cubs are still very cute and still very playful. So we are having a ball out here tonight with these little ones. And still, as I've been kind of narrating as time has gone on, the female is still very wary of all of the other pride mates, showing a lot of aggression towards them and telling them to back off and keeping them in a good distance. Kind of anytime the cubs start to come up to them, she is going and telling them to go away. So perhaps they haven't fully been accepted into the pride just yet. This is early days right now. So the Arowino Pride is definitely one of the smaller ones we have here in the Mara. The Olololo's definitely one of the biggest, and the sausages kind of sitting in that mid-range, although they have added quite a few more little ones. How many of those are going to survive and come back into the Pride? I couldn't confidently say right now. It's a tough life for a young lion. That first year is a real tough battle. And then after the first kind of 2 to 3 years old isn't that bad for lions. They have it pretty good. And then after that, their mortality rates, especially for males, start to rise again because of that conflict with other males and the nomadic search, going out onto their own. It's a very tough test. And they either don't survive or they come out a man. Much like many of the rituals that, well, one of them being the Aboriginals back in Australia, one of the tribes back there. They send a kid off into the bush with a spear, and if they return a man. then, of course, for the females, they get it a little bit easier than the males, as they tend to stay with the pride and work with one another. They don't often have to go out on their own, so they've kind of always got someone watching their back for them and helping them out. But that is all about natural selection, isn't it? The males have it tough, and if they can survive through this toughness, then they can reproduce, pass on those good genetics that made them survive the tough times, and the cycle repeats itself. And this is back to that discussion I was talking about earlier with the lion's mane, and how they think that lighter manes means a less dominant or less powerful male. And their reasoning behind this is that a darker mane will actually trap in more heat and therefore make life harder for the male. So if it can push through this harshness and still survive, then it must be fit to pass on these genes. Now, as I also mentioned, this was only one paper I read that mentioned this, but I thought it is a pretty interesting thought. And definitely something worth discussing. And this is, of course, an open conversation with you all, so please use that hashtag SafariLive to... Joy is asking whether this female is showing aggression to all the other lions or just the young adult. Well, I have seen her chase away all of the 3 lions that are present right now. So that's, yeah, all of them, the young male and the 2 other lionesses. There is one other lioness, but she was sitting kind of behind us, and I cannot see her right now, but she is not near the pride right now. So it's a bit strange, but I'm sure all is well here. And this is actually a pretty good depiction of what the lions would be seeing right now, as well, as they see well at night, but don't tend to... Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. What's happening now? Is it time to say goodnight? No. Just moving them a little bit further away. Oh, they're making some sounds. Hang on. I hope you all were able to hear that, those cute little squeaks. So I did read that a lion cub can make all of the audio sounds that an older lion can make, apart from the roar. So apart from that, all of the vocalizations are there, which is pretty interesting. Of course, they are born altricial, which means that they do rely heavily upon their mother. Gizmo wants to know, why do the cubs' eyes glow at night? Well, they're not actually glowing. That is just the infrared camera. So I'm looking at them with my normal human eyes right now, and their eyes are just little black dots in their head at this time of night. So it's just the reflection of the camera that you're seeing. Makes them look a little bit ghoulish, doesn't it? But that reflection in the eyes does come in handy, especially when looking at for servals. You'll quite often notice a serval's eyes before you'll see anything else. Serval being a small, kind of cheetah-looking cat. One of the small cats rather than the big cats that we get out here. Oh, no! So it looks like the cubs have disappeared behind this bush here, and I don't want to reverse around because I believe there is still line behind me, so I'm just going to go forward and around to try and get a better view here. So just bear with me while I do this. 2 seconds. Well, I'm sure you would probably much prefer to see Tristan with a hyena than me do this. So whilst I am doing this, let's go and do that very thing.
Well, I'm not sure. There's, I think, some people that probably would quite like to see you do whatever it is that you're doing. But anyway, yes, we are with hyena. It's far from where we are. I mean, it's, with the naked eye, I can't even really make out anything but a blob. The infrared does a good job, and it seems like it's feeding on something. I'm not quite sure what it is. I would hazard a guess at a tortoise. That would be my kind of rough guess. After rain like this, you often get little tortoises moving around and walking around, and so that's what I would imagine that it's got. It might have a bone or something like that, but it's definitely feeding on something and kind of crunching through it. I can't hear too many kind of cracks or anything like that, so I'm not sure it is a bone. I mean, maybe a tortoise that it's already broken open the shell and is now eating the softer inner bits. Now, hyenas are one of the few animals that have the power to go through those tortoise shells. Obviously, in small tortoises, things like leopard and lions can do it, but as the tortoise gets a bit older, these guys really are the only ones that are able to kind of crack through and get through and actually feed off it. So it might be that, or like I say, it could just be a bone, but whatever it is, it's in the grass itself, and very difficult to make out what it is. And I mean, I can't see anything. I'm hoping that it picks it up and moves with it. Often hyenas will do that when they've fed for a little bit, then they pick it up and move. It looks like one of the boys from the Juma clan. It's inside Little Gari at the moment, so like I say, we can't get any closer than what we are right now. But it looks like one of the boys that is around. I need Jamie or one of you to help us exactly which boy it is. Like I say, with the naked eye, it's just a blob. It is really can't see any definition. We're lucky that we have things like infrared lights and the likes that are able to kind of get us a little bit closer, but even then the spot pattern is difficult to make out on my screen. I certainly can't see too much in the way of all the spots that define it. It's, you know, you get a kind of wet hyena in infrared with behind plastic covering of a screen with a canvas flap over it, and it becomes quite tricky to identify them and figure out who they are. But it looks like it's got a nice kind of pattern along the left side, a sort of straight line that comes over from the shoulder, which would make it probably quite easy. But the reason why we came here was to see if that lioness that Taylor spotted was still here, but she doesn't seem to be anywhere around, so we'll probably carry on. But in the meantime, let's send you back across to Steve, who's found a bird of prey to show all of you.
Thanks, Justin. Well, look at what we found, everybody. A beautiful silhouette of what is an African hawk eagle. Well, there goes one, and there goes the other one. They were enjoying a little bit of shade, I suppose, under the tree. Probably got it very wet a long time ago, and, well, you just came in time, and now they've flown off. But anyway, beautiful birds, white chest with some flecks of white here, flecks of black, and then invariably an overall dark appearance. Often seen in pairs because they hunt together as a pair. But sadly, they didn't want to stay around for much longer. Okay, so some fresh hyena tracks here. Tristan's with the hyena. We managed to find June again after we got out of that block. But she then lost us again. Don't think she knew where she was going. Everywhere but where we were. She zip, 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 zip. So we're coming around now onto the area where Jandre and I got completely saturated yesterday morning on walk. And we may be hoping to see if we can get any sign of maybe Hukumuri or Shadulu coming in at any stage. But also there were so many elephants around here this morning. It would be nice to have a look at some of them in the IR, wouldn't it? Yes. Okay, very good. Well, it seems like Tristan is still with his scavenging hyena. Let's go and see exactly what it's eating.
well, not for much longer. Unfortunately, our hyena is wandering off deeper into Little Gowrie and is starting to move away. You can see it's got its typical little hyena waddle as it walks along the road. Ears kind of going back and forth, and I find a lot of the animals will use the road a lot more in summer. It's quite interesting. It's because it gets so thick, a lot of the animals actually don't like walking through all that grass. And so at night now, after a bit of a storm, it's actually a really good time to be driving around. You often will bump quite a few things in the middle of roads now, as they try and come and lie, one, on a drier surface, two, try and get out of all of that grass and get away from all the ticks that are around. Some of the grasses at the moment, the ticks are perfectly bad. If you try grass, and then they come onto the roads, which makes it a lot easier when it's raining, because obviously you can spot them a lot easier. Tracking is almost non-existent due to the fact that, you know, the roads become so hard. So it's nice when they just lie in the road. Now I believe that we don't have signal at all, so that I need to go stationary, which is not ideal at all. And while I kind of get out of this area and away from this remnant-filled zone, let's send you back across to Steve.
Well, everybody, sorry about Tristan's signal issues there. I almost thought it was crash cutting to us, and I was busy blowing out my earpiece, which got more water in it, I think, today. And John was asking, what did you do? And I was like, John, I got very wet today. I've been sitting out here. I've still got my poncho on. I've got to clean my ears, he says. I should leave them dirty so I can't hear what he says to me. Anyway, I wonder what hyena that is that Tristan's got. I wonder indeed. I'm slowly learning how to identify them. I think I'm doing quite well with the females lately, but sure, the males not so well. I was having a long chat with Jamie this morning, and she says she's on it. She'll be doing one soon. For the use of male identification, because I think, well, I struggle. And watching her SafariLive's episode about a month or so ago, when she really went through how to identify the females, has really worked for me. So if you didn't watch that, you should go back and watch it again. I can't remember what episode, but about a month or so ago. A very good episode on hyena. Tristan is the leopard ID expert. There's certain leopards I see, and immediately I know them if I see them. If I see them and they don't somehow sneak past me. I reenacted it with Jean just now before we left when we left the den site. I was going, this is what happened. And he fully understands how it could have happened. Don't you, Jean? No, he doesn't. I'm only joking. He thought it was laughable. Anyway, Puma, you want to know if we could find some snakes? I would try find you a snake. But the temperature's quite low, so there's a very good chance that the snakes are going to be very slow moving. But rains do encourage frogs, and there's a few. There's 3 hyena tracks on this road now. They do encourage frogs, so summer snakes are quite sort of loving of frogs. They like moving around looking for frogs, but invariably cold weather slows them slithering down. But maybe I'll keep my eyes peeled for a boomslang, because that's probably the only snake we'd be able to find at this time of night. Puffaders could be in the road, Mozambique and spitting cobras, but as I said, because it's quite cool, they're probably stuck somewhere moving very slowly, or probably with a belly full of rodents or frogs at the moment, because, well, I can't hear a single frog anywhere. Normally after rainfall, the frogs are going absolutely ballistic. Okay, so this is the area where we had 60-odd, 70-odd elephants this morning. It was a magical encounter. We were very blessed. Managed to position ourselves in such a way that the rain didn't do too much wetting of us. Only me, not Jandre, because he's covered under this wonderful roof you have over here. Chuckle, chuckle, he says. Well, chuckle, chuckle is not saying anything, is it? Okay, well, we are on our western side now, slowly moving around. There's an impala. We're not looking for... Oh, there's more impalas here. Wilder Lane, no news at all of Ntima, the hyena. I don't know what she looks like, to be honest. Have you had any news? So I think it is almost time for us to go to the infrared spectrum, Nina, if you wouldn't mind. And then also we're going to check if our FLIR image is going to be working in the next little while. The rain has abated enough for us to finally plug it in. Okay, so we're going to go to infrared and look at some impala here. They're all clustered together in the open. The rain has stopped, the wind, it's very still, very quiet. And the impala have survived another day, but not yet another night. You'll notice it's starting to happen now. The females are accumulating in groups, moving into areas of suitable vegetation, suitable food for themselves, and now the males are starting to demarcate their territories, starting to prepare for the imminent rut that's going to be happening in the next month or two. There'll be a whole lot of new baby impalas around in 7 to 8 months. You see these are all females here. You can tell that the rut is starting to happen when you start finding no males at all in the herds. Okay, well, before the cuteness disappears, let's send you back up to the Masai Mara to Patrick, or should I say Patricia, who is with the suckling Owino cubs.
Well, the mood has got a little bit more peaceful here as we are now in a complete darkness. All of the sounds of the night are starting up and these cubs are suckling away very nicely now. Well, they were suckling away very nicely for a little bit. There was a brief moment of peace there, I swear. But that is the thing with lion cubs. There's not often a few moments of peace. Absolute little bundles of joy. Now, I don't believe I've actually explained exactly what a den is for a lion. Well, it's very similar to that of a hyena, except it will generally be out here anyway, amongst bushes and in dense grass. So most often we'll find the dens out here amongst thick grass and kind of under a nicely shaped bush that kind of provides a bit of cover from all angles. So they will have their cubs here for about the first 4 to 6 weeks of their life while they are still learning their way around this new body of theirs and this whole life thing that they are now doing. Then, of course, spend about 6 to 8 months nursing and being introduced to meat. Diet of milk and meat. That can only lead to a strong animal, can't it? Calcium and protein. The two things that you think of when you think of strength and growing. And fat, of course, as well. Mila Moo wants to know how they hide their cubs when they go hunting. Well, that's just what I was explaining about then. They need to choose a good spot that has a nice bit of cover, because if it does get stumbled upon while they're out hunting by something such as a hyena or perhaps a jackal or any other opportunistic predator, then they will get snatched up and eaten, unfortunately. So this is another reason why the cubs are so vulnerable. You don't really often think of lions being prey for an animal, but when they are this little, it can be a real concern. So that's why a real nice den site needs to be chosen. That's also why you'll see that if they're not content with a den site, or whether a den site's been stumbled upon by one too many animals, then they will definitely move it. So it's not always just the one den site. Again, much like hyenas. So There is a lot of similarities between lions and hyenas, despite the fact that they're pretty distantly related in the carnivora order. They both have about a 3-month gestation period. They're both formidable hunters who are social and hang around in groups. And a lovely preferred prey item of the lion is, of course, the well-known and abundant impala. And I believe that Stevovo has some all the way down in South Africa. Let's go check it out.
Thanks, Patricia. We have got the thermal image out now from the FLIR, the thermal imaging camera, which is giving you a very nice coloration of these impala that are moving just off of the road. You can see the road to the right of them. You can quite easily see the warmth of them. There's a female on the left now that's actually busy having a bit of a toilet break. So that would be quite warm. Sort of the lighter patches, sort of the orangey is on their back, where obviously it's been rained on. It's a bit shaggy fur, so it's a little bit sort of drier, or should I say not drier, a bit cooler than the body. But we look at the neck and sort of the eye area, even underneath the legs, that is where most of the heat is. As you know, when you are very cold, what you do, you curl up into a ball to hold all the heat inside, and when you are warm, you lie on your bed, spread-eagled with a fan over your entire body to cool yourself down. So animals have similar sort of strategies for keeping warm, and cuddling is one of them, or running around is another way to warm up. Very nice technology that we have here, completely, well, almost pitch black for the naked eye, but we're able to see the impala going about their business. Chandra, can I move a little bit closer? Just going to move. Okay, so just to get back to Intima, everybody, as we just move a little bit further up, as we can't zoom with the FLIR, it doesn't work. Well, it does, but it just takes, it's a very tricky process. So James Richard says that Intima was on drive about 5 days ago. Thanks, James. So there we go. I can't remember who asked for that update. Oh, the Impala are not happy with us. They've moved off. But let's just turn the car slightly and we'll get them. They are very graceful animals. And Chandra's going to frame them up in a second, and we'll see them back in the FLIR in just a moment as he finds focus. There they are. One of the strategies these animals have for surviving is everybody wants to stand in the middle of the herd. Everyone wants to be in the middle. No one wants to be on the periphery. Because whoever's on the periphery is, well, potentially going to be picked off. So that is how herd animals have evolved. That's how domestication has evolved as well. When people started sort of domesticating animals, sheep, for example, was the first kind of domesticated animal, or agricultural animal. Those that moved away from the herd, they didn't keep. They didn't go and find them. And if they kept moving away, well, then they'd just leave them altogether. So those that stayed together and were able to breed with them, and that sort of genetic trait of staying together as a herd is what allowed them to do very, very well as an agricultural animal. And herd animals like impala, buffalo, they like to stay close together. There's a bit of a selfishness to it there, because they're not doing it to benefit each other. They're doing it as a selfishness to benefit themselves. Because as soon as a leopard or wild dog approaches, or cheetah, these impala will all suddenly show each other, or show the leopard or predator how fit they are, and going, don't catch me, I'm very strong and very fit. Go for that one over there who's not as fit as me. So that is essentially what they're doing. Right now, it seems like there's a bit of grooming, a bit of leg kicking, shaking of the body. Hello, Gala. Well, impalas, like all ruminant animals, don't actually necessarily sleep. They'll go through bouts of feeding, and they'll fill their belly with food, and then they'll either stand or they'll sit down in the shade or in the open, and then they'll ruminate. And a ruminating animal is almost like a meditating yogi, in the fact that their body rests and their brain is completely switched off, because everything's automatic. They They don't look asleep because they are busy chewing the cud, but their brain capacity is lowered to that of a sleeping animal. So they actually rest that way. Not like elephants and rhinos and us who have to physically put ourselves down for hours on end. It's one of the advantages of being a ruminant is you can remain always alert for the slightest of sort of things. Now, I was talking earlier about how animals like hoofed animals get mud. They slip and slide. You can see a lot of these animals are busy kicking their legs from time to time because their hooves are getting filled with mud, and it makes it tricky for them to move. It makes their legs a bit heavier, and well, it's not easy to... Have you ever tried to run when your shoes are covered in mud? Not easy at all. But they've been out in the open. It seems as if they're slowly moving down towards the thickets. Or maybe there's something around the corner we don't know about. We haven't heard an alarm call. They're all looking in one direction, though. The one that disappeared into the thicket seems to be running around to warm itself up. There we go. It's time for play in the impala world. They want to warm themselves up a little bit before the coldness sets in, because you can imagine if you've been in the rain all day and you don't dry yourself off, you're going to catch a cold. So these late rains that we do find in South Africa, we were talking about rains earlier, actually have the potential to kill off quite a number of animals due to the fact that they can get wet during the night and it gets a little bit chilly and they kind of get a little bit of a sort of pneumonia of sorts, which can quite often lead to their demise. So late rains are not ideal because the temperatures in the evenings are getting a bit cooler. And all of you know, your parents will tell you if you get wet clothes, they say, quickly, go change before you catch yourself a cold. You know that we've all heard our moms or our grandparents tell us that. And then we tell our children that as well, because it's amazing how quickly you can get sick if you get wet and you don't change your clothes. And that's exactly what will happen with these animals. Lots of fur, lots of moisture. They have to shake it off and try to dry themselves if they can. But invariably, what it does do is it will affect some of the weaker ones in the population. The stronger ones might get a cold and sort of survive through it. So a little bit of a run around will warm up the body temperature and help them to sort of steam off their sort of wet pelts or wet coats. Such wonderful images of impala. Again, with the infrared, you wouldn't really be able to see anything from this distance. Maybe just some shining eyes. Then we go on the right. We've got a bit of aloe grooming going on. You scratch my face. I'll scratch yours right there, please, on the side of the face. There we go. Reciprocal grooming, whereby an individual will groom exactly where they want to be groomed. Monkey see, monkey do, as you were. There we go. Now, once it's on the side of the neck, let's see if the other one does the same. Beautiful combing on the neck, a place that they can't access to get ticks off of themselves. And just one more moment. There we go. On the side. Don't let me down, Impala. You've been playing such a good game. Anyway, we're going to move on from our Impala shortly, and in the meantime, let's go over to Tristan, who's around the corner, and he's also on the search for a last-minute leopard.
Well, we've stumbled into an antelope of our own, so there's impalas in some areas. We've got kudu, which I haven't seen too many of lately. But you can see this female kudu. She's out by herself at the moment. I didn't see any others. It's obviously quite dark, and as soon as we saw her, we turned the lights off. But there seems to be that she's just by herself at this stage. And you'll see that with kudu, that most of the time they spend a lot of time in the thickets. Obviously, in night time, they'll start to move out and start to come into these open clearings where it's a little bit easier to spot predators, and these guys have the most incredible sense of hearing, and so when they get into an open clearing like this, it makes it much safer for them to survive, and they're able to kind of sit out here and ruminate and generally take it easy during the course of the night. And as soon as the sun starts to kind of come up and it starts to get a little bit lighter, then you find these guys start moving off into the thickets once again. But aren't they beautiful? I always enjoy how big their ears are. They're one of those antelope that have massive, massive ears in relation to their body, probably more so than anybody else. And I always just think that they're very pretty animals. In fact, the whole family, you know, Nyala, Kudu, Bushbuck, all the males are so impressive with their horns, and then they've got these large kind of bodies with beautiful patterns on them, eland to a degree as well. Quite exotic looking creatures if you think about it. And See, very alert though. There's a lot of noise that's going to be around from all the insects that are moving. You can hear insects kind of flying all over the place, and so that, and I would imagine that's why it's kind of just listening out. So our presence here many times could, you know, that if we stop for long periods of time, potentially there could be a predator around, and so they often are a lot more wary when we stop our vehicle for long periods. But look at how that ear constantly is turning and listening and trying to figure out what's going on around. I'm very surprised though that it's by itself. I don't see any sign of any others close by, which is interesting. Generally kudu are herd animals. Very, very, very seldom do you see a female kudu like this on its own. They mostly try and kind of be in small groupings together. When they do separate out, it's often when they are giving birth and then have a little one, and they look after that little one for a few days, but there's no sign of even a baby kudu here, or that she's heavily pregnant. So maybe the rest of the herd has just passed through and they're already on the other side. There's a more of a kind of clearing towards the north of where the way that she's basically facing, and maybe some of them have cleared those trees there and out of the range of our infrared light and are sitting that side. So maybe that's where they've gone. Anyway, let's carry on. She's starting to drift off onto the edge of where we can actually see. So we're going to carry on. I'm going to get my spotlight back out again, because otherwise I'm not going to see anything and we're going to have a crash. Monique, you also wondering where her herd is? Oh, there they are. They're down further down at the bottom here. I've just found the rest of them. So not to panic. She's part of a herd. The rest are down at the edge of this clearing, slowly starting to come out. There's one. They look quite aware, so maybe it's just each other that's making them a little bit kind of nervous at this stage. But the other one is over here. She's not as relaxed. And no, she's jogging off now. She obviously thinks that we're going to be some sort of threat to her. You see, she's just stopped behind that bush there. Unfortunately, the infrared reflects quite heavily off the bush in front. But there you can see her. She's kind of listening and a lot more nervous than the other one was, that's for sure. And ran up in the right way. Oh, Craig, look what we've got on our dashboard. Who's very active. What are you doing? See it here, Craig. You might need your infrared for it. Oh, no, don't go that way. Hold on, Craigie. I'm going to try and make sure that we can see it a little bit better. I'm going to just flatten out my covers so that you can see it. There we go. Here's a little caterpillar that is crawling around. Now, this caterpillar, I'm surprised, is still on the vehicle. It landed on the vehicle right at the start of drive. It fell out of a tree as we were driving along the roof, hit a tree, and then it fell onto the bonnet, and it has managed to stay on the entire time. Sorry, Craig, I'll lift it up so that we can still see it. So there we go. It's kind of just crawling around. I don't want to touch this because this has got lots and lots of little hairs all over it, and it's actually quite a quick little thing. No, you're going to go near my hand, so we're going to put you down for now and try and actually find a piece of grass for you, because the next port of call from the edge of this cover is my leg. And like I say, I don't want a hairy caterpillar all over my leg. Anybody who's ever had one of these guys climb on them will know just how kind of itchy it can be when they get onto you. So what we're going to try and do, it came off a bush willow, so I'm going to try and find a bush willow rather than anything else, and get a bush willow branch and then put it on, because remember that a lot of caterpillars and are specific to certain trees, so it will be probably better that we do that. So I'm going to try and find a suitable bush willow. In the meantime though, let's send you back across to Pat and his flat cats.
Well, all has truly settled down now. We haven't had any movement out of the cubs. They have been resting very nicely there for us, being nice, peaceful little cubs now. So it kind of suits the mood perfectly. It's a nice, still, quiet night, only that very slight lick of breeze coming through, and otherwise it is a perfect night. There's not even really that many clouds out tonight, which is very unusual for this time of the year. Sammy, who is 11 years old, you wants to know whether lions get milk teeth. So for anyone who doesn't know, milk teeth are the teeth that when you were young, you had your first set of teeth, and when you lose them, that new set of teeth is termed your adult teeth. So the milk teeth is the set that you lose. So in lions, they will also have this same kind of process where they have these milk teeth that they will eventually lose by about kind of 2 months, or maybe a bit even after 2 months old. So they just have these tiny little milk teeth up until then. And then as they start to grow and develop, the other teeth start to come through. So they're not the same as you and me when we were younger in that they're exactly the same as the other set of teeth. These ones are much smaller. But if they were to give you a nip, I'm sure it would still hurt quite a bit. So the lions are definitely settled down now, and it's time to start winding it down for the night, and I believe that they have had the same idea too. And it's actually making me pretty sleepy watching them start to relax for the night. I could actually just crawl in there and lay my head on that lioness and fall asleep with a bundle of cubs in my arms. Jemay saying that she I just didn't quite catch that one. Jemay definitely said something, but what that was, I just didn't catch it. Feels very calm looking at the sleeping lions. Yes, it is quite calming, isn't it? Especially since they've been up and playing. You know, you kind of feel that excitement. You feel that little rush when they're up and about and playing, and you're kind of almost on the same level as them. And now that we're seeing them winding down, and to be able to do that with them, it's, as I was saying just before, I kind of feel like falling asleep with them right now. It's nice. Of course, I would never in a million years try to go in and sleep with them, but the idea is comforting enough. Imagine that, just wrapping your arms around all of these cubs. Just going to stay quiet for a little bit while we enjoy the sounds of the night and these lions sleeping. Try and bring you all onto my relaxed level if you're not there already. Very, very peaceful. So I think we will definitely be making a few visits back to this den site to see these cubs continue to grow. Although I do think they will almost be at that stage soon where they start to leave the den. So it's going to be interesting to follow their lives. That's the best thing about being around cubs, is knowing that you can follow each step of their way and really get to know them, get to know their personality, which is something I absolutely love out here, is seeing all the different personalities amongst animals and seeing that they are much more like us than we actually know. Well, I have had an absolutely magnificent drive today. Well done to Stivovo and Tristan down in Juma, finding both leopard and hyena. So we've had a lot of high-profile, happy, awesome sightings today. So don't forget, we will be back in the morning for our sunrise drive at 5 a.m. 5:30 a.m. South African time. So we hope to see you all then. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.